Hi, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm here again with Richard. Richard happens to be the president of Profitability Business Simulations, and we're discussing actually an experience, a course, something that you need to actually go through yourself called Visual Value. Now, Richard, I'd like to just talk about, first of all, the purpose or intent of this course. What's the intent of going through this training?
I think there are a couple of things which I could lay at the feet of Visual Value. Its primary purpose is to introduce people to financial literacy and basic commercial acumen. But there's a layer that sits on top of that because we play the game in teams. And so there's a great opportunity here to work together as a team. And as you know, Roger, it's all very well understanding perhaps the dryness of financial literacy, reading it through a book or an online webinar, but this is an opportunity to work with other like-minded people, and you're actually applying what you learn about financial literacy as you experience the game itself. And I think that's a real winner.
One of the things that I appreciate myself having participated in this course and game, if I will, happens to be one, you already understand the business concepts, the accounting model. You understand debits and credits and how you might leverage different things such as COGS and so forth to really be effective in business. But then learning those principles and applying them in this experience is a totally different, let's say, experience. Why? Because what happens here is there's this collaboration with the team, as you were describing. There's this competitiveness. Are we going to underbid or lowball in an attempt to actually get business? Are we going to go and purchase certain manufacturing equipment? I love the strategy that goes on in this. And one of the things that I found fascinating, and I'd like your opinion on this, is I had some team members who are accounting professionals who do this on a day-to-day basis. And they started by saying, my heavens, it feels like I'm just doing this like I'm at work again. Now, that was fascinating, but it quickly turned into a competitive experience of wanting to make the right decisions to get the consequences, the outcomes that we were all looking for. How do you see that evolving as you watch participants actually go through this experience?
It's really interesting because the game itself is based on a very simple model. It's a 3-product market, very originally calling them yellow, blue, and green products.
Good old widget.
Absolutely. We kind of have the standard product, the yellow product. We then have the premium product, the blue product, and then we have the luxury product, the green product. But all these products are the same quality. Every team has a warehouse that only can house 4 machines. And so that's where you start, Roger. You start with what's your investment strategy? In other words, what markets are you going to go into? And then, of course, we build on that. We then move from what markets are you going to be into? How do you price more effectively? And once we've done that, we then talk about, well, actually, now we've sorted our investment strategy out. Now we're learning about pricing. What about budgeting and forecasting? And then supporting that, what's the cash flow forecast to support that budget? Now, all of this happens through the game itself. So you're not actually learning specifically about investment or pricing or budgeting and forecasting it. You do it as a consequence of playing the game. And that's where the power is, because if you don't realize you're learning that because you're having to apply the knowledge in what is a fairly realistic scenario, as you know, we try and introduce drama in the marketplace. We try and make it competitive, but then that really deepens the learning. And we find aspects of gamification can really help the learning.
Honestly, this to me is the capstone of the accounting experience, because as accounting professionals, we oftentimes learn to manage by the numbers. They're basically ethereal, they're without emotion, and we're in a position where we're trying to just do what's logical. But when you take it now to this experience that brings in the emotion, the competitive nature, and all of a sudden, I think truly what the accounting professional experiences are the emotions that the client or business owners are going through on a day-to-day basis that sometimes the accountant is removed from. And here's an opportunity to not only marry the numbers with the emotion, but also the consequences of the decisions decisions being made. It to me is the capstone of the accounting experience, because we're now bringing into the whole process the emotions that are sometimes just not something that the accounting professional gets to experience, and here they get to experience those in a very real way. So that is one of the things that excites me about the program. Do you have any testimonials or experiences that you might be able to share just to cap this off?
Absolutely. I can remember one particular team member in a team who made this declaratory statement at the very start. And they said, Richard, you need to understand something. I have an agreement with numbers. I don't talk to them and they don't talk to me. And you know, I didn't say anything. I acknowledged the statement. I mean, it would have been wrong not to acknowledge it. And yet, 2 rounds later, we were in the month of March, okay, and we were looking at pricing, and I happened to drop into the breakout room where that particular person was, and they were front and center, explaining to the other members that their risk appetite wasn't big enough and that they only had to look at the numbers. It was really clear to this particular individual how they were not only going to make lots of profit, but they were going to win. And to your point, Roger, this competitive element, it does bring emotions in. And if we think we all do business without our emotions, we're very much mistaken. It's absolutely about tying together your understanding of the finances, how you account, but also with the emotions of being in business. And I am tempted, I have to tell you, I am tempted occasionally when I drop into some of these teams, especially when they are polarized, you know, when we've got 2 members of the team who want to have high volume and low margin, and the others want a more segmented approach towards customer selection. And it's very tempting to say, guys, you do know this isn't real. And I never say that. And the reason I don't say that, because it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not about it being real. Once you start competing, once you understand the rules of the competition, it is a natural thing to try and win. And there are other examples where people who have come in, you know, worried about whether or not their knowledge of financial literacy is sufficient for their business. And for some, this is a steep learning curve, all right? But here's the other thing, and I can't stress this enough. If you go into a team of 4, and that's the optimal size for a team, you may have somebody from another organization who's hugely experienced. So you will learn from them just as much as you will from the experience yourself. And it was ever thus, Roger. That's how human beings learn. We don't learn by sitting down and listening to someone teach us didactically. It's through conversations. It's through discussing a shared experience. And that social learning thing absolutely happens in the game.
So there are a few things here that I'd like to just end with. It's first of all, the accounting that this course actually brings in to a real world environment. Second, the emotions that actually come with the decisions that we're making, both in the short term and long term. We can see the consequences of those. And with that, also bring in this human element of you have some bias as to how you would run business. You have a bias as how you interact with your peers. And in those decisions, you've got to negotiate and decide on, as a team, your strategy and what you're going to be doing with the decisions that need to be made and the consequences of those in the coming activities. So there's so much to be gained from this experience. And I encourage everyone to register now, participate, and do what you can to actually get into that mindset of more than just being an accountant, but literally that of a business advisor, a business coach, to understand more where the business client, the business owner is coming from as they're also making these types of decisions on a daily basis in their business. So with that in mind, always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care, everybody.